Hello, I'm Lenny Rhodes, owner of Mix Cosmetics. I make custom organic makeup, skincare, body care, and every single week I talk about kind of what's going on in the beauty industry. I talk about ingredients that I utilize in my products, how to make certain products. I just sort of cover the range. I don't generally give how to apply topics, how to use, because I figure there are lots of people who are teaching wonderfully creative ways to apply eyeliner and lipstick and where to put your cheek color to highlight your face. And honestly, that's not my skill set. As much as I love makeup and the fact that I make makeup, applying makeup is probably my weakest skill. And so I can make your perfect makeup and I can show you where to apply it, but I'm actually not that great at applying it to myself. So I don't do those kinds of tips because it's not my skill. And you can find lots of people who are really fantastic at that, the makeup artists and such. So today I had somebody ask me a few weeks ago about climate change and how it's affecting my ingredients, how it's affecting the supply chain. I mean, haven't we heard over and over again right now about the supply chain due to COVID, due to overharvesting? And so we need to have these things. We need to be able to deal with climate change in our businesses, in our lives, with supply chain interruptions. So I'm actually going to say that supply chain and climate change haven't been that big of an issue for my business. And here's why. I have actually tried to build the most sustainable business model that I can. And one of the ways I've done that is utilizing waste products, and I'll get to that in a moment, and utilizing products that are actually sustainable and can be grown around the world. And so my products, my oils, my essential oils, the ingredients that I use are less affected than other things would be by the supply chain and by climate change. So here is what I mean by waste products. Here we go. Cranberry seed oil. So this is cranberry seed oil. It is really, really dark, like golden yellow. I'm gonna see if I can show you just a tiny bit of it, if you can see it. Oh, look at that. Look at how gorgeous it is. So the darker the oil, the more vitamins it has, the more amazing beneficial additives for your skin, things like vitamin A, vitamin C, vitamin E. And I think it smells really good. It doesn't smell like cranberries because it comes from the seed. So this is why it's a waste product. It's because after they make cranberry juice and cranberry jello and cranberry jelly, what's left? Well, the seeds. Nobody drinks cranberry seeds in their juice. And of course, that's what the vast majority of cranberries are turned into, is juice. So you've got millions, I don't know, hundreds of thousands of pounds of seeds. Because if you've ever bitten into a cranberry, they're like half seed and half weird, powdery, chewy berry. I've been eating them recently because they're in my fridge. And yeah, I eat just straight up cranberries. So, because they're super good for you and full of antioxidants. And so that waste, they learned that they can press the seeds and turn it into this amazing, glamorous cranberry seed oil that is also loaded with antioxidants and vitamin A, vitamin C, vitamin E. And so it's phenomenal for your skin. I use things like cranberry oil because it's a waste product, because it's grown here in the United States. In fact, Wisconsin is this northern Midwest, which is exactly where I live. And so it's created right here in my neighborhood, and they're not struggling with the cranberry bogs right now. Of course, this past summer we did have a drought, so there were a few issues, but nothing catastrophic. And so cranberry seed, still okay. Another one that I source for myself actually is rose hips. rosehip powder, rose hips. I use it in my soap. I use rosehip oil, and rosehip oil is extremely expensive, but it is pressed from that fruit of the rosehip, of the rose, and it's generally harvested in places like Bulgaria for things like rosehip oil. You're gonna find Bulgaria, there are some in the US. They tend to be a little bit more temperate, and roses are pretty hardy. They actually will survive in a wide range of climates. So we grow lots of rose hips up here in the frozen cold tundra of the north, but they also grow almost as well down south in places like Texas and Florida. So you're gonna find rose hips, roses, in all of those, in that huge range. And so roses aren't particularly affected by climate change, and they're not particularly greedy for water. They're not a greedy plant. And so they're not as affected as, say, something like, one of the ones I don't use is palm or palm kernel oil, because palm, right now, they are tearing down large swaths of Asia, Indonesia, particularly the rainforest, because they discovered that the palm plant that is native to East Africa grows shorter and produces more fruit if it's grown in Asia. And so it's easier to harvest. You don't require such specialty equipment to get way up these enormous trees. And so they started growing them in Asia instead of sourcing it from Africa where it's native. And so it's damaging, but palm requires a pretty enormous amount of water. And so it is a rainforest, but as you take down the rainforest, it changes that ecosystem, and the rain, maybe it doesn't fall as often. So palm has been something that I've taken out of my product diet for a long time because I didn't really want to use palm because it's been so unsustainably grown. And then there are things like rosewood and shea trees, shea butter, that rosewood has been really over harvested and they're no longer producing rosewood oil. They just can't. It takes about 30 years to grow a tree, and then it has to age for 30 years before they make oil. So they can't, basically. And so rosewood, you can't get the essential oil. They've blended like hoe wood, rose oil, and something else to make kind of an imitation rosewood oil. And they've also started using the leaves of the tree, which is great because trees grow new leaves every year. So you can harvest leaves and press those. So they've just started doing that. And it's a really good oil, but it is extremely expensive. So I actually use the rosewood blend that is hoe wood and rose, and it's something else, I don't remember what, with a little camphor in it. And so it's still an essential oil blend that smells like rosewood, gives pretty much the same properties, but is not rosewood, so is not still depending on these trees that have a 60-year essential oil cycle and don't grow well right now because of climate change. So my business is fairly climate change protected just because of the choices I've made and what I've used. And I will continue to shift and change as climate change affects different plants. I will cut those out of my ingredient diet, out of my ingredient list, because there are definitely ways to make cosmetics sustainably and even in the face of climate change that we can utilize, and they're fantastic for our skin. We just have to be aware and educated. So I hope this has helped, and I know it was long. I'm actually probably going to do another one about climate change and the supply chain. So I'm Lenny Rhodes, owner of Mix Cosmetics, and we will see you again next week, I hope.